Follow along, handstand push-up class. Let's put the forearms together, interlace the fingers, do some circles. So we just want to warm up our handstand first. Normal deal, I'm going to go through all the different levels, give progressions for freestanding variations, for wall variations, but with the goal going towards the freestanding handstand push-up. So level-wise, you could be doing pike push-ups, you could be doing freestanding handstand push-ups, or even deficit handstand push-ups. But we're just going to slowly progress, slowly warm up, fill the gaps. So warm the wrists up, make sure they're nice and happy to do a handstand. So a few wrist circles, lots of weight into the hands. Do circles in both directions. Peel the hands up and down. And if you do need to pause the video as we go, just pause it, spend more time on a stretch, spend more time working out the drill, or just doing more reps and sets to fit where you're at. Okay, in terms of shoulder warm-up, now we could do the standard floor variation like this, but I'm going to do a variation up on the wall. So I'm going to kick up to the wall, I'm going to put one foot down behind me, so in that position there, and then I'm going to push the shoulders away. Just watch with this one that you don't feel it in the low back. But you should be able to push the shoulders further away from the wall. Try to keep pushing the floor away so don't collapse in any way. And then a easy pec stretch. So straight arm, shoulder into the floor. Take the opposite leg over and round. Just make sure that this right shoulder is pushed hard into the floor. If you are very flexible, you can bend this elbow, but most people can't bend the elbow without the shoulder lifting. And then same on the other side. So a bit of a bicep stretch as well. Again, make sure that shoulder is in contact with the floor. Nice, and then come back out. A few scap push-ups. So nice and easy to start with, so focusing on full protraction at the top, so rounding the upper back and shoulders, and then coming down, bringing the shoulder blades together, keeping the arms straight, push all the way out, all the way back down. If that feels okay, same thing up on the toes. So full retraction, bringing the shoulder blades together, full protraction, rounding the upper back, try not to lift the hip too high or sag the hips. It wants to be all about the shoulder blades. Just make sure you can go up and down there, and then similar thing, just at the bottom of the handstand push-up, not handstand push-up, bottom of the push-up. So externally rotate the hands, come down so chest is close to the floor. So you're not actually touching the floor. Chin hairs are just touching, and then a little bit of movement there. So you can go side to side, but we're just warming up that bottom of the bent arm position. Nice. Now we do need to get into the hamstrings, calves, especially if we're going to work pike push-ups. So a lot of people struggle with the pike push-up from a mobility point of view, especially if they're strong. So just going into like a down dog position to start with. So ideally dropping back towards the heels, towards the floor, locking the knees backwards. If you are super tight in this position, just bend one knee, swap over to the other side. But ideally, both feet together, locking the knees backwards, really get into those hamstrings and calves, and then isolate it even more with a forward fold. Now, if you are super, super tight with the forward fold position, do something that's a little bit less on the spine, more on the hamstring and calf. You could even go like that. But if you are more flexible into that position, you could even wind up the calves even more by dorsiflexing, bringing the toe up towards the elbow, driving the elbows down towards the toes. Okay, now easy pike push up to start with. So we want to warm up shoulders, get some blood into the arms. Now you could use dips, we could do standard push-ups, but I want to try and get that closed chain environment while pushing the floor away exactly the same as the handstand push-up. So turn the hat round, make sure we can get forehead to touch the floor. So from that position, then I'm just going to come down, make a triangle. So notice the triangle between the head and the hands, and push back out again. So I'm externally rotating, bringing the elbows inwards towards the midline, and pushing back out. Okay, similar now but I'm going to go up into a crow position or a frog position. So knees on the elbows, take the head down towards the floor, create that triangle, back up again. So notice the seesaw that's happening. The hips are coming up, head and shoulders coming down. They're opposites. So head and shoulders down, hips up, hips down, head and shoulders up. So that's now warm up the freestanding handstand. So obviously if you're working towards freestanding handstand push-up, it's going to be really important that you have a very strong, well-balanced freestanding handstand that has a lot of room for error. So ideally I should be able to hold this freestanding position and I should be able to move around there and have some window of balance or room for error so that I don't fall over when I move between overbalance and underbalance. That's just going to make the handstand push-up so much easier. It's even going to make it easier than the wall version. The wall version makes you sort of lean against the wall all the time. You collapse into position and then you've got way too much weight that you're dragging up and down. When I'm doing the freestanding handstand push-up version, it's much easier to use that seesaw to help me out of the position. So I can't emphasize enough, as much work as you can, making sure that your freestanding handstand is super strong. So let's just start with a 30-second conditioning hold. So two options with the 30-second handstand hold. So we could go freestand in the middle of the floor, or we can go chest to wall handstand. So if you don't have freestanding yet, into that position, just hold in there, not there. So we want to make sure that we're flexed and we're not extended in that position. So slight arch or flexion through the body, like a hollow body position, and we only have toes on the wall, but ideally it would be freestanding. So let's go 30-second hold. 3, 2, 1, timer's on. So least amount of energy in your handstand hold. So keep pushing the floor away, reaching towards the ceiling with the toes, looking down towards the floor. Even if you're doing the chest to wall handstand version, make sure you're looking down towards the floor. We want to make that base, that thing that's going to help us to hold balance, to be very, very strong and dominant. What we don't want to happen is our feet to be leading our handstand, because you'll be falling all over the place. Okay, that's 30 seconds. Come back down with control. And let's stretch again. So this time we're going to go into a Jefferson curl. So I'm going to use a raised platform to make it more challenging from the hamstring calf point of view, but I can also work that articulation of the spine on the way down. So rolling down through the spine, soft knees. When you get to the bottom, lock the knees backwards. If you're comfortable there, a few bounces. So trying to lengthen this position as much as possible. Bend the knees, roll back out. And 2 more. So rolling down, lock the knees backwards. Bend the knees, come back out, nice and tall. 1 more. Nice, okay. Back out of there. Now we got 2 exercises to condition the handstand push-up. So number 1, we want to do pike push-ups. So relatively easy pike push-ups. So if you are working the harder variations, still do these pike push-ups as your warm-up towards the harder variations. And same thing if we're going to stick with pike push-ups because you're not ready for the harder progressions yet, we will up the ante in terms of time under tension. So don't make these ones too hard to start with. So again, we need to turn the hat. Okay, I set up in that down dog position. Now notice the shoulders are very open there. We can bend the knees if we've got tight hamstrings and calves, but ideally we'll be in that open position. Now I'm going to come forwards, I'm going to round the upper back, elbows come in, head comes down towards the floor, kiss the floor, make a triangle between the head and the hands, push back up, open the shoulders back up again. So let's see if we can get 3 to 5 repetitions there, not too hard. And 5. And then we're going to superset that with wall leans. So it's really important with the handstand push-up that we get very good at taking the shoulder forwards of the hands and back again. So the wall is your friend with this one. So I'm going to work very closely to the wall. I'm going to externally rotate the hands and I'm going to keep the shoulders to feet one segment. So externally rotate, heels against the wall. Shoulders to feet stay one segment. So when I take the shoulders, the whole body moves in and then back again. So in and back. So see if you can get 3 to 5 repetitions with this. If you struggle and can't get all the way in, just touch the head to the wall and come back again. So we don't want to feel like we're collapsing in any way. So not collapsing in that gap. So see if you can get 3 to 5 repetitions, but that control, that push is really, really important. If you are finding this follow along handstand class valuable, I have more classes on my app. I have follow along videos, tutorials and programs. If you'd like more information, the link is down in the description. Okay, and then for our rest, let's just do some Cossack squats. Now, not necessarily needed for handstand push-ups, but really good to open the hips up, and generally is going to make things easier, especially if we do things like crow or frog to handstand. To make sure you've got nice open hips, you can go up in an efficient way instead of going out and around with the legs. So I'm just going to go into a straddle position. I'm going to keep the left leg straight. I'm going to bend the right knee like I'm doing a squat. I'm going to keep the torso upright, and I'm going to push back up again. I'm going to swap over to the other side, same thing, upright torso as deep as I can, and just keep alternating sides, trying to get deeper and deeper. So really trying to keep the torso upright, driving the knee forwards, sitting the hip down. Nice, and then let's go back into one more round of the pike push-ups. Remember, we're making this easy-ish, so 3 to 5 repetitions, and then back to the wall leans. So again, if you do need to pause the video as you're going, just pause it, take your time, rest longer. And then one more set of Cossack squats again. Now with the Cossacks, let's be a little bit nastier now, have the wall here. So the wall's gonna stop you from leaning forwards. So drop in down as much as you can, keep that straight leg, heel down, foot down. It's much easier if I sit into it like that, but we don't want to use the hamstring too much at the moment. We want to try and open the hips up. So again, just alternating sides, upright torso, shoulder behind the knee. Use the wall to police the position, so you're not leaning forwards at the torso. Okay, now looking at the pathway of the handstand push-up. So let's go into some eccentric handstand push-ups. Now let me just show you the floor version first, so you can get an understanding of what needs to happen with the pathway. So this is the freestanding handstand push-up. So start position is obviously the home position of the handstand. So straight handstand, lock the body in. So I don't want this, I want this. So now I'm gonna take the shoulders forwards, feet come backwards, bend the elbows, elbows come in, and I'm slowly coming down till my forehead just kisses the floor. Now ideally you'll show balance there, and then I can come back out. The biggest demand with that one is the freestanding balance control. You might have a good handstand balance at the top, but learning to balance that position as you come down towards that shoulder stand-like position, so the feet are back, head and shoulders is forwards, is really important. Now, most of you aren't going to be freestanding version with that control yet. If you are, obviously practice that one, see if you can get good time under tension on the way down, around 5 to 10 seconds per repetition. And we want to try and get 3 repetitions per set, so we equal 30 seconds. Now, if you can't do the freestanding version, we could do the wall version. So exactly the same, but you start in a chest to wall handstand position. Again, one segment, nice clean line, shoulders come forwards, create the triangle, elbows bend, elbows come in, all the way down to the head kisses the floor, and then I hold. And now I have to try and get out without losing my toenails. So that one's a bit trickier to get out in the bottom position, but a lot of you are gonna have to use that variation over the freestanding because you just don't have the control yet to do that one. Now, if you're more advanced, you'll need to do a deficit. So the deficit is going all the way down until the collarbone or the chest touches a box or whatever you're using. So I'm using these IKEA steps. They're really useful because you can move them around and they're super stable. They allow you to do them up against the wall and they allow you to do them freestanding. So I'll show you the freestanding version. If you are working the other versions, just carry on with those. Try and get your 30 seconds time under tension. So same starting position, but now I'm elevated. Now I'm flexing the feet just because of the ceiling. Well, ideally I will have my toes pointed. Shoulders are going to come forwards. Feet go backwards. All the way down. Arms into the side. Pause. Show control. And then come back out. Now, interestingly, that one's much easier at the bottom than the freestanding version on the floor, both on the wall and freestanding. Just because that shoulder stand position is much easier. So it's like a rest position at the bottom if you've got the balance correct and you can come out. Same applies if I do the wall version. Now with the wall version, it's quite tricky to get up into the position, especially if I've got like a wall here. So you need quite a bit of strength just to get into the position for a deficit. But exactly the same applies. So straight body position, shoulders come forward, toes stay on the wall, slowly come down, arms come into your side, pause in that bottom position, and then out of there. So pick whichever variation you can do, 30 seconds time under tension, then we need to rest. Now for the rest, we're just going to do a straddle good morning. So open and closing in that straddle position. So here, taking head down towards the floor, kissing the head to the floor, and then opening back up again. If that's super easy and you want to make it a bit more spicy, just do a straddle up. But remember, this is the rest. Handstand push-ups is the priority. So if you want to just completely rest, that's up to you. Hands backwards, hands on the floor. Sit all the way down into your straddle position and then reverse that back up again. So you could do repetitions there. So around 5 repetitions. Okay, then just make sure you're doing your second set. Aim at that 30 seconds. A good test for this is you could try and do 1 repetition that lasts the 30 seconds. So if I'm here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. So I got down to the bottom there with about 25 seconds and then done a 5-second hold in that bottom position. Now I wouldn't recommend that you do that. I'd recommend that you do it so you've got around the 3 repetitions, but it does allow you to play with it. So at the end, if you start to speed up, you can rest a little bit and add another repetition to make sure you accumulate that 30 seconds time under tension. And then for the rest, if you did want to do that straddle up but don't have the flexibility yet, you could use a step. So exactly the same thing, but now I'm going to come down, put my hands on the step, sit down into the position, and then push back up, open the hip, back up at the top. Okay, next we want to go into the concentric, so the going up. So to start with, let's use the frog or the crow to handstand, see if we can get out of that position. Now, if you can't get out of the position, I would practice L-sit to shoulder stand. But let me show you crow to handstand first, so frog to handstand. So we want to have a position where our hips and our shoulders are relatively on the same plane, and then I'm going to drop the head and shoulders and lift the hip up at the same time, which allows me to use momentum to take me up to handstand or to the wall. So there's options there. If you don't have the control to hold the freestanding, just go close to the wall so you can hit that position. If it's easy, you can just slow that down. So exactly the same thing, but I just go slower, more time under tension on the way up. And then I can also work the eccentric, coming back down, and I could do repetitions if that's quite comfortable. Now, if I don't have that, but I want to learn the seesaw, I could use P-bars or the IKEA steps like we just used and go between an L-sit and a shoulder stand and back again. And that's really good for going L-sit to handstand as well, that you could do here as a different progression. That could be done on the P-bars like that or the IKEA steps. And you can even practice the full shoulder stand position as well. And there's different variations you could mix up between these concentric. So you could go for an L sit to handstand, using a bit of momentum to go up. And then you could combine your eccentric. And then you could come through to your L sit again. If those variations are a little bit too hard for you still at the moment, you could still work your pike push-ups to just make them slightly harder. So the easiest way to make them slightly harder to start with is either to elevate the hands or the feet, and or you could do both. The other way to do it is just have more time under tension. So if I'm going down now very, very slowly, and I put a pause in at the bottom, and now push hard back out, and then do the same again. That's going to be much, much harder than the ones we've done in the first round. So feel free to play around with the progressions and the drills to fit what your level is, but just try and get around that 3 to 5 repetitions or around that 30 seconds time under tension for each of the exercises. Okay, now we've done good working sets. The next thing we want to work on is our skill of the movement. So we're just going to work on 1 repetition, but really work on quality. So if we have it, we could do the full movement now. So the full movement ideally is going to look as good on the concentric as it does on the eccentric. So if I go into my start position, I come forwards, feet come back, I slowly come down, forehead just kisses the floor. And then when I come back up, exactly the same happens on the way back up. Now in reality, that's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to look a bit more like this, that sort of thing, and that's fine. I just try and get back into your freestanding handstand at the top. So even if you have to use a bit of a banana, if you have to bend the legs, use the overbalance to help push you out of the handstand push-up. Try and get back into that balanced position at the top. Same goes for the wall. There's a couple of options we can use to go back up the wall for our 1 rep max skill work. So exactly the same. Head comes forwards, creates the triangle. I might get stuck here, so I push and I walk up the wall. So that's an easier variation than just sliding up and down. But try and pick a progression that you can get 1 to 2 repetitions that have at least a quality eccentric and some sort of concentric that you can get out of. If you're already at the stage where you can do a clean freestanding handstand push-up, you could either go to your deficit handstand push-up. So exactly the same, but now up on the box. So coming down to here and then back up again as clean as you can. You can do it against the wall. Obviously that's going to take it to the next level, and you can just try and make that as clean and as slow as possible, or you could go for those 2 to 3 repetitions. So that's what we want to be spending our time on at the end of the class, the skill of the movement. But do remember that you've done all those working sets beforehand, and you can pause the class and do more working sets. So I took you through 2 sets of each exercise. You could do 3, 4, or even 5 sets. For the main working exercises, it depends on how much time and energy you have and which progressions you're working. Reach out if you have any questions with this one, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Thanks, guys.